Good morning, everyone, and thank you for taking the time out of your busy diaries to join us today for our Copilot webinar on how to get your customers AI ready and unlock their productivity and creativity. This webinar will be recorded and we will be sharing a copy of this webinar post this webinar, so stay tuned and you'll get a copy of this. So my name is Peter Graham. I am one of the partner development managers here at Ingram Microcloud, responsible for collaboration and content. I'm also joined by my colleague, Michael Markey, who is also a partner development manager. So in the agenda today, hopefully we'll get through this in the 60 minutes we have with a Q&A at the end. But we're going to talk about the AI impact. We're going to talk about what is Copilot and how it works. We're going to talk about getting ready for Copilot, the customer adoption and onboarding, and we'll go through some of the facts and common questions that have been raised since its announcement. So I'll hand over to Mike for the AI impact.
Thanks, Pete. So to deliver on AI impact, if we go to the next slide, we're aware that digital debt could be costing us innovation. So if we put the ball in your court, how many of you feel that you don't quite have enough time to complete kind of the day-to-day tasks, or feel that you've kind of endless days where you've nothing but meetings and communications tasks? I know I could be back to back quite often. And like today, the deck that you're seeing that's being created by Pete and I, this is spending time of creation. Well, with that, with more time being spent being reactive and completing tasks for the normal day-to-day, how often do you feel held back to be the most innovative that you can be? Go to the next slide, please. So we're already using AI day in and day out, whether this be Alexa, music playlists, recommendations for shopping. I think my Amazon said I need a new drill the other day, or even ordering a takeaway, free bank loan approvals. It's out there. Now with this, obviously the impact comes back to you as the user. We've seen a lot in the news recently where a number of businesses and employees are worried, so therefore taking strike action kind of thing about AI replacing their jobs. So I know that BT had mentioned that over the next 7 years, they're looking to let go of a number of thousands of people. I think the number quoted was around 55,000 people in favour of an AI global unit over the next 7 years, and Vodafone to kind of 10,000 in the next 3. And one more recently and seen on the news, the writers' strikes, which have just ended. That was around AI and how people's job security was at risk because of the likes of Hollywood wanting people's likeness, the voice recordings to kind of take over this AI. But with that said, there also needs to be kind of a learning gap as well. Employees need that AI aptitude to understand how kind of the new skills day to day are going to help you prepare for AI, whether this be kind of the analytical judgment, the flexibility around it, and even emotional intelligence, for example, just to name a few. Now, with this one, Copilot, as its name, has actually been out for a little to some time already. You'll see on the screen we've got GitHub here, and there's been a Copilot for GitHub. And if you're not familiar with it, this is where the kind of the coders and the developers go to kind of script and write the code for certain bits of software. Now, the GitHub data actually shows that Copilot promises to unlock productivity for everyone. Among developers who are actually using GitHub Copilot, 88% are saying that they're actually more productive, 74% saying that they can focus on more satisfying work, and 77% are saying that it helps them spend less time searching for information or examples. Now, I'm not a coder or a developer, but I can't imagine that it's the easiest of tasks. So seeing those numbers, I think it adds a really, really strong case to Copilot boosting the productivity, definitely. Now, 3 in 4 people would be saying that they are comfortable using AI for administrative tasks. And a couple of things that spring to mind around this is kind of, you've come back from annual leave. Usually you've got an inbox as long as your arm to try and get through. And you could suddenly be added into an email chain that's 10 replies deep, and you currently just added into it to say, what are your thoughts? Well, using AI, you could ask that to summarize that email chain. possibly even find a space within your calendar for a meeting, summarizing meeting notes and actions following those meetings, or even figuring out the likes of your travel time in order to be more productive to complete the day itself. So it's yeah, and that number I think might only get closer to kind of 4 and 4 people once the technology comes around a little bit more. Now, since 2016, Microsoft has been committed to building Azure into an AI supercomputer for the world, which has been serving as the foundation of Microsoft's vision to democratize AI as a platform. Now, through the initial investments and collaboration, Microsoft and OpenAI pushed the frontier of cloud supercomputing technology, announcing one of the first kind of top 5 supercomputers within 2020, and subsequently constructing multiple AI supercomputing systems at massive scale. Now, earlier in the year, Microsoft had actually announced that they're pushing through with further investment as this partnership grows. So that will only expand on what's actually to come over the next couple of years, whether this be through the supercomputing at scale, the new AI experiences that we come to see and then hopefully know and love, and even the possibility of provisioning cloud services as well. Now, I'm going to hand back to Pete, who's going to take a little bit of a look through what actually is Copilot.
Thanks, Mike. So Copilot, as Mike said, has been, touted about quite a lot this year in 2023. And it's important to note, we want to drop in this kind of image here that Microsoft has provided us. And it goes to show you that Microsoft is putting Copilot into much of our everyday loved software programs. So as you can see here, there's, as much as I hate the phrase Copilot for Copilot, there's around 9 to 10 of these that are in development in preview or launched. So starting from the top left, we've got Bing. So Bing Enterprise was announced and launched already. We've got Copilot built into the Edge browser now. M365 Copilot, which we're talking about today. Windows Copilot, which was just announced earlier in September there, as launching with Windows 11. So that's rolling out as we speak. We've got a Dynamics Copilot. There's a Fabric Copilot, which is your Power BI and analytical side of things. A Security Copilot, which is in preview as well at the minute. GitHub Copilot, which has already been launched, as Mike spoke about earlier. There's the Power Platform Copilot there, and there's even a Sales Copilot as well. I think that might even fall under the Dynamics one. But as you can see here, Microsoft is heavily investing into AI through all of its different software and throughout its reach that it has to partners and customers, and it will only get stronger. Now, when it comes to helping customers and helping partners become more skilled in AI, there's a couple of things just to note here. Obviously, we'll talk a little bit more about ChatGPT and stuff later in this webinar. But you've obviously got the likes of Bing Chat, which was announced and released earlier this year. Bing Chat for Enterprise, and obviously you can see Copilot here, and you can see the kind of the rhythm of the features that are included in each of these workloads. Now, one of the interesting things that we've all seen is I'm sure everyone here has at least experimented or tried ChatGPT. It's important to note that the Bing Chat for Enterprise obviously has the commercial and data protection of when you're searching. And it can obviously reference internal things as well. So it's important to note that where your customers are potentially using AI, they need to be very cautious in terms of what they're putting in, as some of these obviously can look through the data and learn from the data quite immensely. So it's important to know that if a customer is finding the use out of it, make sure that they have the proper use cases for involving it in their day-to-day work life. But at the moment, if you're running an organization that's running 365, you do have access to Bing Chat Enterprise through the relevant different licensing models. And if you're unsure if you're using it or not, just head over to the Edge browser and go to bing.com and log in with your Enter ID, as it's now called, and it should pop up with Bing Chat Enterprise if you're licensed applicably. Now, Microsoft 365 Copilot. This is why we're all here today. So this combines the power of all the large language models within your data from the Microsoft Graph and the Microsoft 365 apps, accessed through the natural language to turn your words into the most powerful productivity tool on the planet. Copilot is integrated into the Microsoft 365 in two ways. First, it works alongside you, embedded into the apps that millions of people use every day. So now you can be more creative in Word, more analytical in Excel, more expressive in PowerPoint, more productive in Outlook, and more collaborative in Teams. Now, it's important to say the price here, as many of you have heard this already, and it is priced at $30 per user per month. Now, it was quite a shock for some people. A lot of people were expecting the price to be a lot lower than this, but it's important to note of just how much time that this can potentially save a business. And when we look at the $30 a day per user per month, there's no UK price announced in terms of exchange rates yet, but it's easy to describe as $1 a day. A great blog that I read on LinkedIn from, I don't know if anyone follows Rich Gibbons on LinkedIn. He's a bit of a licensing guru. And in his blog, he mentioned a very good analysis where, say, for instance, Tony is paid $100,000 per annum salary, which is roughly speaking around $48 per hour. That works out at around 80 cents a minute. And if Copilot saves Tony 38 minutes a month, then Copilot has paid for itself. Now, I'm no mathematician, but I'm sure Copilot can save me a hell of a lot more than 38 minutes per month. So how does Copilot work? So you may have seen this as well, but this is a very nice visual aid to show you how Copilot runs. So up in the top left-hand corner, we've got the Microsoft 365 apps. This is where the user would prompt a request to the Copilot chat. And these prompts are sent through Copilot, which is in the center of the screen, through to the Microsoft Graph for the where it accesses the graph for all your data and context and content through your emails and your files and your chats and your calendars and your contacts. And it uses the Semantic Index for pre-processing. Now, Copilot then sends the modified prompt through to the large language model on the far right-hand side, where it will review and Copilot will give a response through that large language model based on the data. And Copilot will then assess this for post-processing and then sends the response back to the Microsoft 365 apps. Now, we'll go into the Semantic Index and the Microsoft Graph in a little bit more detail later on if you're unsure of what that means and what that is. But it's important to note that there's a lot of complex tasks that involve getting you the right response. And again, we'll talk about this in more detail, but having the correct data in the tenant and doing a cleanse of the data will only make Copilot better for your users' experiences. Now, when it comes to M365 Copilot, obviously it is designed for the business world. And the important thing to note here that it is grounded within your business data. Machine learning will only get better with the data that it has access to. So in terms of the Microsoft Graph, making sure that all of the data that you have in the organization is up to date and not historical to provide Copilot with the right information and context. Copilot inherits the security and compliance and privacy policies that are set up in the 365 tenant. If that's not something your customer has, then get it done. It will play an influential part to the onboarding experience of Copilot. It's important to note that the data that Copilot accesses is protected by the compliance boundary, and it is not used to train the Copilot model. Now, Copilot can obviously learn from your data, which is around the semantic index, which we'll talk about in the next slide. And it's obviously integrated into the apps that you use every day. So Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, Teams, and more. And users can decide what they use, modify or discard. So when you're using Copilot, yes, it will give you prompts on suggestions of what you could be asking. And it could suggest, if you ask it to process something, it will generate a response, and it will also generate a second or third or fourth response for that user. So you always have control over what you want it to do. And it's also designed to integrate new skills. So as I said before, it learns about the processes it can perform, and in terms of the more sophisticated tasks and queries, as you prompt it for more common things as you use it, it will get better as well. Now, the semantic index. So this is a sophisticated map of your user, your company data. For example, with the Microsoft Graph, it contains all the information that's indexed in your tenancy. So the semantic index uses various different tools, to say it in simple terms, to understand more about the data in your organization. So, for example, when you ask it about the March sales report, it doesn't simply look for the documents within those words of the file name of the body, which is typically what a search engine would do. Instead, it understands that the sales reports are produced by Kelly, who is on the finance team, and creates them in Excel. And it uses the conceptual understanding to determine your intent and help you find what you need. The semantic index for Copilot is crucial to getting relevant, actionable responses and prompts in Microsoft 365 Copilot, and it enhances enterprise search results for E3 and E5 customers, whether they're using Copilot or not. Moving on to the Microsoft Graph, this is a gateway to the data and intelligence within Microsoft 365. So it provides a unified programmability model that you can use to access the tremendous amount of data in Microsoft 365, Windows, and enterprise mobility and security. Use the wealth of the data in the Microsoft Graph to build apps for organizations and consumers that interact with millions of users. It's important to note that the Microsoft Graph is, as you can see on the screen there, it connects all the different information points within your tenancy. So as you can see here, notifications, files, emails, chats, events, security, and pulls it all together for the likes of the semantic index to understand and better architect. Now, I'm sure we'll be all wondering to ourselves in terms of, asking Copilot to look at a file or asking Copilot to reference something. It's important to note that it will always look at the most recent file version history. So as an example, as you can see here, we obviously edit different versions of a file over a week or month or year, and many people will collaborate on these. But it's important to note that Copilot will only reference the most recent version of a file. So if you're looking for something that someone had previously edited in a file, Copilot will not be able to present those results of what was it before. And it's important to note that if you are looking for something that someone has changed, obviously, it's important to go into the document file version history to get that information. So that is just a quick limitation that you need to be aware of. Obviously, you'll all be serving backup to your customers, so they'll be fine anyway. So yeah. Now, Copilot in Word. So if you've ever stared at a blank page and wondered how to begin a document, that experience is now in the past. Copilot will jump in and start the creative process for you, so you never have to start with a blank slate again. Copilot is going to be a game changer. And as you can see, it can help you write, edit, and summarize and create the right context for you alongside the document that you're trying to create. And with Copilot in PowerPoint, I'm sure we've all felt a bit of PowerPoint envy with some people, and you're feeling a bit low on the creativity and you're looking for that little bit of inspiration. Well, Copilot in PowerPoint can bring your ideas to life. It can be your storytelling partner. You can start a new presentation from a simple prompt or an outline, and all with ease with natural language commands. It can help draft the best ideas and bring them to life right in front of you. Copilot in Excel is probably one of my most thought out and favorite features, because I spend hours a day analyzing data in Excel. I'm sure some of you do as well. And when it comes to analyzing and looking for a professional looking data source, it pulls in all the rich capabilities of Excel at your fingertips. I know we've all got somebody in the office that we'll sometimes tap onto for some Excel knowledge. And hopefully with Copilot, that can free up that person in your office for a bit more time so that you can generate what you need. You can ask it to perform a query. You can ask it to compare cells, perform an equation, and various other different things. And so now you are just doing your best work all on you. You can take credit for it now, basically. And Copilot in Outlook, as Mike mentioned, it would be great if it could summarize an email from a massive chain. It would be great if it could look in my diary and suggest any times in a response for when I'm next available to hold a meeting with somebody. And it will help you clear your inbox in minutes, not hours or days. Copilot in Teams, wouldn't it be amazing if every meeting was more productive? I'm sure we are all sick to death of all the meetings we have to hold, especially when we were doing it all through COVID. But Teams has changed collaboration forever. And it can also be hard to keep up with all those chats and channels. So Copilot in Teams can summarize key discussion points, including who said what, where people were aligned, where they disagree, suggest action items, all in real time during a meeting. If you forget to join a meeting or you're double booked, Copilot in Teams can summarize a meeting and mention when your name is brought up and any actions that you may need to take. Now, this is not an excuse to ignore your meeting invites, but it's a very healthy way of prioritizing meetings over each other. Now, I want to show you an entirely new standalone experience. Business Chat works across all your emails, files, meetings, chats, documents, calendars, and more to turn all your data into knowledge. It's your knowledge navigator. Business Chat, together with information from multiple sources, to keep everyone on the team on the same page and moving forward together. You'll be able to spend less time focused on the tools and more time focused on the important work to do. And it will be available as a chat option, as you can see there in the Teams chat section. Now I'm going to hand over to Mike on how you can get ready for Copilot.
Thanks, Pete. So getting ready for Copilot, obviously a lot of chatter around what it is, where it's come from, what it's going to do for you. But how do you actually, prepare for such an event? Now, there's actually a whole load of content out there already to help enable you and your teams, whether this be through Microsoft Learn, Cloud Partners Readiness on Transform. There's even the AI fundamentals that are out there from Microsoft, or the Microsoft Mechanics YouTube channel. Alternatively, we at Ingram Micro are becoming equipped to kind of support you in that Copilot journey. So definitely reach out to us as well if needs be.
Yes, I know. Yeah, I was just going to say there, Mike. Microsoft recently gave partners access to workshops. So if you're wanting end customer workshops where, this type of content you're viewing today, if you want it customer facing, get in touch with your Ingram Micro representative and we can do a Copilot oriented customer workshop.
Now, there's a number of requirements and recommendations for getting ready for Copilot as well. So the minimum license prerequisite, which was a really keen point that kind of I was looking out for quite a long time until it was announced. This will sit as a minimum of business standard all the way up to the Microsoft 365 E5 SKU. So anything Microsoft 365 on business standard, business premium, E3 or E5. There are a number of features which will require users to have that OneDrive account. And if you're on Outlook, so any of those users for Outlook, you'll need to be using the new Outlook for Windows, which you can actually toggle on in the app itself. Now, for Teams, interestingly, this will support both current and the newer versions, but you should be using these through either the desktop app or the web app itself. And if you're using Loop, if you've not checked out Loop, I would definitely recommend it. It looks like it's going to be phenomenal. But if you plan on using Loop in conjunction with Copilot, your tenant must be enabled for Loop itself. And lastly, the richness of your experience. So Pete touched on something around this with its version histories and its data before and semantic indexing. But the richness of your experience will depend on the data sources which have been indexed by your Microsoft 365. So in short, if you've got documents which are sat on your SharePoint, let's say, for example, that they're for 10 years ago and they're no longer used, but you haven't actually archived them and they're just sat there on your tenants, these documents will be indexed and made available by Copilot, which would lessen in that experience because you're not needing them anymore. So really, in short, the action from that is cleanse your data,
Absolutely, Mike. And I've just thought there as well, Mike, at the top there, where the licensing prerequisites, it's important to note as well that obviously Microsoft did announce the general availability for Copilot for enterprise customers just last month. Now, it's important to note that this is for enterprise agreement customers and other licensing programs, but CSP is not one of them at the moment. And the licensing prerequisites for them are E3 and E5, of course, not business standard or business premium, but CSP, Microsoft has assured us that it is coming in 2024. So just a little bit more time to get your hands on it.
Yeah. Now, there's also how to prepare for the Microsoft 365 Copilot. So the first one is really understanding your file permissions, which backs off the point of what I was just saying then, cleanse your data. So looking to create and see that overview of your sharing and permissions available throughout your SharePoint libraries, and also addressing any sensitivity labels from Microsoft Purview. So, if it is containing sensitive data, why is it not shown as highly confidential? Why is it could possibly be shown as general if you've not got the policies written in? Looking to implement your data loss prevention policies as well. So if you're not sure about data loss prevention, that's preventing the accidental leakage of data throughout your business. There is a video on there when we share the slides, which you can go through and take a little look. But also there's reporting that you can use to stay updated. And this can be within your tenants of your customers' tenants through the admin center for the usage reports, and also any data access governance reports that you might see within a SharePoint admin center, because you might not know that there is credit card information sat within a particular document that's being picked up, but it's that hidden away on sheet 4 of an Excel sheet, and you've only been looking at sheet 1, and it'll get it all flagged for you. But alternatively, there is the Microsoft Mechanics videos as well, which it can point you towards. And then there's somewhat of a timeline which we've kind of looked to recommend to put together. And obviously, different projects carry different lengths of time, depending on the different phases of where you currently sit. So don't hold this as gospel as month 1, 2, 3, 4. More think of it as, this is journey 1, journey 2, etc. So the first thing you'll need to do before anything at all is go in and assess that compliance score. So go in and take a full review. Alternatively, for your end user, you can book them through a solutions assessment, which is funded, and you can discuss that with any of your Ingram Micro representatives to get further information around that. And alternatively, you might think that, wow, there is so much data to go in and cleanse and take a look at. We do have a product through policies and insights that we can also discuss with to kind of help you take off that burden, if you like. The second month or kind of journey number 2 is looking through those policies, so the data loss prevention and the information protection. Obviously, these kind of features come from anything business premium and up. So your business standard customers, when it becomes available through CSP, you would have to go in and add those on. So it's a really good upsell conversation for you to have with those customers. Once you've reviewed those policies, you're then taking it to kind of month 3, journey 3, step 3, if you like. You're looking to then implement those policies. So looking at that document level protection, I've mentioned it before, anything where it's sensitive information, let's get labeled properly so it's not accessible to, Joe Blogs who might have just logged in via a guest access, for example, and tagging your SharePoint sites for non-indexing. So if there is, say, for instance, there's a lot of personable, identifiable information that's core to the running of the business, holding employees' information, you can actually throw a cloak effectively over that SharePoint site, and that then won't be indexed, making sure that you kind of, anything that needs to be pulled up can be, anything that you don't want to be is obviously hidden away. AI policies, so just kind of safeguarding and protecting, because AI is going to be written into kind of the fabric of your software and the Microsoft 365. So just making sure that, AI isn't 100% accurate all of the time. So obviously the information it puts out can't be taken as gospel, as it's been told previously when ChatGPT is kind of being utilized. So looking to implement those policies for your business. And then the month 5, or the last step of the journey, is how you'd go to market. So contacting those users, providing any tips, the best use cases that you've seen, and if there are any adoption courses around, which I don't think there will be short of over the next coming kind of couple of years whilst Copilot is rolling out. And with that, I'm going to hand back towards Pete, who's going to take us through some adoption and onboarding.
Perfect. Thank you, Mike. Yeah, so great way to end the last discussion there around adoption, because we're going to talk about it. So obviously, some customers may be nervous about it. Some customers may be really excited about it. And it's important to note that you give them the right information around it. Now, if you go to adoption.microsoft.com, you can filter on the various different Microsoft products, and there is a Copilot section. So if anyone's struggling to understand, exactly, what are the integral specific things and tasks can Copilot do in the various different apps, you can actually go and find out. So in the adoption website, you can go into each different application, and you can get some adoption tips and tricks and some white pages on how they can better use and prepare for using Copilot. Now, it's important to note as well that we all find, when we're like asking our Alexa devices or Google devices and such what, sometimes it doesn't get it right. You explain it doesn't understand your lingo. My Irish accent, might not understand it the first time I ask. And obviously, when it comes to talking to AI, it's very important to know that it has to be very specific what you ask it. Now, I'm sure if any of you have been using Bing Chat Enterprise or Bing Chat itself, you will have found that as well. So if you're using that at the minute, you will have found that asking AI, you have to be very specific about the task you wanted to do. And with people very eager to get their hands on Copilot, what better way to prepare them for using AI than to using it that's already available? So whether customers are licensed correctly, in the regards to business standard, business premium, etc., and they have access to Bing Chat Enterprise, they can go in, log in with their Azure Active Directory, or Enter ID as it's now called, and start using Bing Chat Enterprise, which is the AI-powered Copilot version for the web. Now, as you've seen as well, last month, Microsoft announced Windows 11 Copilot, which will be included in all Windows 11 devices, and they're rolling it out over the coming months. And that will be another great way to get involved with Copilot and start asking it the certain types of questions that you may want to start learning on and be more precise on. But I would encourage you to start using the different variations of Copilot that are already out for general availability to get your customers talking and asking questions and getting them excited about it. Now, further on to what Mike was saying earlier about the compliance side of things, it's important to note from an adoption standpoint, you're probably thinking to yourself, wow, that journey, that 5-month journey or a 5-step journey, that's going to cost a lot of time and effort. And you're probably thinking of the professional services off the back of it. But where we can hopefully save you time, we have a product on the marketplace from AvePoint called Policies and Insights, which basically for short, PI, makes it easy to monitor the 365 health of the tenant-wide security reports across the Microsoft Cloud services. But how do you know if there's an issue? So Pi aggregates the sensitivity and activity data across the tenant, so the critical issues are prioritized for action. And then in bulk, you can edit and set these policies to be enforced across the tenant automatically, securing the collaboration in Teams, groups, sites, and OneDrive, and it's never been easier. Now, to give it in a bit more detail, you can automatically set the policies easily, see who has access to certain files and objects or SharePoints, and things like that, and OneDrive and groups. You can add, edit, expire, or remove permissions to entire workspaces or individual documents with sensitive information. You can also track the exposure, including anonymous links and external user access over time. Now, it's important to know that, yes, you do have access to all that within Microsoft already, but with the various different admin centers, there's an admin center for an admin center. I think it's a really unique tool that allows you to do it all within one interface. The recommended retail price for this for a customer is around 77p per user per month with no commitment. So you could potentially onboard the Policies and Insights tool for a couple of months while the customer's compliance is remediated. and then pull the plug and continue on. But it's important to note that this could be an ever-growing challenge for customers, because once you've solved all the compliance issues within the tenant, in hours, not weeks, you'll probably have to do it again soon, because this will only do it for the existing documents in the tenancy. You'll probably have to think of the ongoing side of things, and whether you keep policies and insights as a recurring subscription for the customer, so that you're constantly monitoring the compliance of the data that's created to make sure that Copilot isn't referencing anything. You can obviously as well think of the product add-ons that can come with this and complement Copilot. So as Mike touched on, within Business Premium and you've got the classification side of things within Azure Information Protection. That's a manual task that you would expect the users to manually do every time they create a document, and they have to manually apply the sensitivity label. You can't always, we're all human here. We all make mistakes, and we can't always expect people to do that all the time. Now, with rules-based auto classification, obviously that can help a lot. But also machine learning-based auto classification can help even better, where within the subscription for the E5 Information Protection and Governance SKU, which you can add to anything that includes any M365 plan with Azure Information Protection, so I'm thinking your business premiums and things like that and beyond, you can add this product onto it, so that moving forward, every time a user creates a document, based on the rules and the content that's within them, Microsoft will automatically classify a document based on what the user is putting into that information. So effectively, you never need to worry about the compliance within the organization for quite some time. Well, not say never. But there's various different tools, obviously, within the E5 compliance stack of things. So pay close attention to this in terms of the ongoing support that your customers may need when adopting Copilot. So I'll pass back over to Mike for some facts and common questions.
Thanks, Pete. So yeah, to go through some facts and common questions, I know there's going to be quite a number of questions at the end, but the first one is just, what about my permissions policies? So preparing your organization for data governance in Microsoft 365 Copilot. So the data permissions will be consistent, and users will only be able to search the right information, or the information that they have access to. And this will also include the view-only rights as well. The accuracy of, so how accurate is Microsoft 365 Copilot? I'd mentioned it just before, that the responses that a generative AI produces aren't guaranteed to be 100% factual. Some of the sources that AI is used to kind of train upon and learn upon, I know one of those sources is the likes of Wikipedia, for example, and we all know how much we can trust that sometimes factual, sometimes not. So really, you should be fact checking anything that the AI tools are putting out there, just to know that it's kind of, as accurate as it can be. So while we continue to kind of improve these responses, people should still use the judgment when reviewing the output before sending it off to others. So where does Microsoft 365 Copilot get its responses? So the Copilot users can view where the data is being sourced from in order to validate the accuracy of the data, a bit like referencing throughout kind of Word and OneNote if you're doing anything for kind of university work or college work. So the design principles are included to giving users clarity into where these resources are sourced, or responses are sourced, where possible. So Outlook will provide a summary of an email thread, which will include the footnotes throughout. And then cross-app intelligence features like chatting and Copilot within kind of Teams or Bing. The responses will include the links to documents, emails that kind of support those responses. And I know through using Bing Chat Enterprise, I've definitely seen it when I've asked it a question, and it'll kind of mark it as 1, 2, 3 as it's going through the answer, and then I can go and click that site itself. What languages does Microsoft 365 Copilot support? So initially, it'll support these languages that you're seeing below during the early access program, and it'll feature more at general availability. And who owns the content generated by the Microsoft 365 Copilot? So Microsoft does not claim ownership of the output of the service, because effectively you are putting in, requiring those answers. Generative AI kind of learns what it is that you're after and kind of molds it together. So Microsoft doesn't own any customer output content. So yeah, be very, very careful and wary.
No finger to blame, hey?
Yeah. And then what's the difference between ChatGPT and the Microsoft 365 Copilot? So ChatGPT is a general purpose language learning model that works very much like a chatbot. It uses machine learning algorithms to answer users' questions or prompts in a way that mimics the human conversation. So if you asked it to always respond in a funny tone, it will always respond in a funny tone until it has to do something different. ChatGPT was actually only built upon information that was kind of there up until September 2021. So if you were to ask it, you know, what were the latest lottery results, for example, it's not going to be able to give you that information. Whereas Copilot is an AI-powered digital assistant that combines ChatGPT with data that's on the Microsoft Graph, so everything's sitting within your tenant and its Microsoft 365 apps. It's going to use the data from the user calendars, emails, chats, documents, meetings, and more to deliver you the contextual relevant solutions which are directly built within the Microsoft 365 apps. And with that, I'm going to pass back to Pete.
Yeah, no problem. It's important to note as well, like I keep referring back to it as Clippy 2.0, which Microsoft keep telling me it's not, but I have to say I wish there should be a Kickstarter to bring back Clippy for the modern age. That's one thing I miss from my days using Windows 95 and things. But thanks, Mike. So we're finished a good 15 minutes earlier. So I guess for the next 15 minutes, I guess, if there's any questions in the chat or if you want to ask any questions, please drop them into the chat and Mike will be able to go through them with you over the course of the next 15 minutes.